Hey guys, Coach Erin here, and I'm here to talk to you guys about transitions in your triathlon race. So transition is the time in between the three disciplines of the sport. So you have a transition 1, which is between your swim and your bike leg, and then you have transition 2, which is between your bike and your run leg. There are certain tricks that you can utilize within the transition times that are going to help bring that transition time down. Now this is advantageous if you're trying to go for some sort of award, if you're trying to PR on a course, or if you just want to have a smooth time going between the different 3 sports during your race. In my mind, the more simplified you can make your transition time and your transition area, the better. So first, setting up your transition. What I like to do, like I mentioned already, is keep things as simple as possible. So I don't really keep anything in transition except for the things that I need during the race. So these things for me would include my bike, my helmet, my bike shoes, whatever I'm gonna have on my bike for nutrition, and then my run shoes. And then also I have sunglasses there to wear on the bike and on the run. If it's gonna be exceptionally sunny, I might leave a hat in transition, but more recently I've even been avoiding that just because it's one extra thing to think about. So as I'm setting up my transition, out loud I verbally say, I walk myself through my race and I touch my items as I go to make sure I have them. So I say I'm gonna swim, and I have my swim cap and my goggles, which are not gonna stay in transition, but I still have them. I say, and then I'm gonna come and get on my bike. So I have my bike shoes, I have my bike, I have my helmet, I have my sunglasses. Then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna run. I have my run shoes. Oh, and you'll need your race belt as well. So I have my race belt, my race number. Once I've established that I have all those things, I'm out of transition. I don't spend a lot of time in there. I don't work myself up about how everything's gonna go. I get out there and then I start my warm up too, which is a whole different topic. So once you're out of transition and it's time to race, you have your actual transitioning to do. So swim to bike. You're gonna wanna have your wetsuit off, which I do, and I get my wetsuit halfway out as I've left the water before I get to my transition area. Once I get to transition area, I strip the rest of my wetsuit off and I put it in its place. And then what I do is the first thing I do before I touch my bike is I put my helmet on. To practice this, it's really easy. You can practice getting your helmet on at home or really anywhere. Some drills that you can do are taking your helmet off and putting it on the ground, spinning around in circles, making yourself really dizzy, and then trying to get your helmet on and clipped in one try. This is just a good practice to do to get it out of the way quick. Next, I'm gonna take my bike. I already have my shoes on my bike, which I'll talk about in a second. I'm gonna run my bike to the transition line. I'm gonna mount after the mount line. One way to make this really quick is to practice your moving mounts or flying mounts, where you jump on your bike while moving. My biggest recommendation for this is to not mount your bike, no matter what kind of mount you're using, right at the line, because that's what almost everybody else is going to want to do. I always take my bike a few yards or meters away from the start line or the mount line to make sure I have space just in case anything goes wrong, but also to protect myself in case things are going wrong with the other athletes as they are trying to get on their bike. So get away from that line, get on your bike smoothly, and then you're on to the bike course. For starting with your feet or with your shoes on your pedals already, if you're gonna do this way, when you're warming up before you're setting your bike in transition, make sure that you put your shoes on from your feet. So don't clip your shoes in by hand, because sometimes this doesn't work and you might lose your shoe as you're trying to do your transition, which is not great. So put your shoes on, clip in, take your feet out of your shoes. I would not try this for the first time on race day, but basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna mount your bike and you're gonna pedal on top of your shoes. And then once you've gotten up to speed, you can slip your feet into your shoes. And basically you're saving all that time that would have been spent putting your shoes on in transition and running with your cleats. You'll get rid of all that time and you'll just take care of it while you're already making forward progress on the bike, which is a win. As far as getting out of your shoes on the way back in, I like to save myself some time and not do this right before the dismount line, just to kind of keep things nice and calm. But basically you just reach down, you undo your shoes, you take your feet out and you pedal on top of your shoes coming into the line. Doing a dismount while you're moving is also going to save you a bunch of time. Again, don't try this for the first time during your race, but you can coast and glide and learn how to maneuver your weight so that you can do this safely. Also, if you ever want to work on this with a coach, our coaches are more than willing to do that. So as you've come into the transition for your transition number 2, which is bike to run, what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna rack your bike, make sure you put your bike in the right place, make sure it's sturdy and on the rack and not gonna fall off and cause a big wreck. If you have not already taken off your bike shoes, do so quickly. Slip on your run shoes. The best way to make this part of the transition quick is to have speed laces on. So those are elastic laces where you don't need to tie them, you just need to kind of stretch them and slip your shoe on that way. What I do is once I've got my shoes on, take my helmet off, and I just grab my race belt and go ahead and leave transition, and then as I start my run, I put my race belt on. Once again, just saving time by doing things that I could have done standing, by doing those moving instead, because you can do them while moving. Finally, a really important thing about transitions is knowing where you are in the transition area in relation to all the entrances and exits. So I'll never forget, I was doing a race one time in college and I did not scope out the transition area beforehand, and I was trying to leave and I was running, and the announcer over the loudspeaker said, "And there goes Erin Horrell running the football to the wrong end zone." Super embarrassing, couldn't believe that I made that mistake, and I had to then flounder around and try to figure out where I was in transition. So moral of the story is, when you're setting up your transition at the beginning of the day, look around, look where you're gonna come in from the swim, look where you're gonna leave with your bike, look where you're coming in with your bike, and look where you're gonna leave on the run. Furthermore, what I like to do is count the number of bike racks that I have to pass until I get to my spot, and that I also have to pass to get to the exit. Once again, the more you know and the less unknowns that you have as far as your transition area and location, the more smooth your transition is gonna go. So let us know if you have any questions here. Practice this and become a student of transitions, and it will help your overall race experience. Bye.